So this is also perfect because for my other class, my freaking my Zoom thing got deleted. It's amazing. I've never heard of that happening. Or sorry, I've heard of it happening a lot. It never happened to me, but it happened to me this week, and which sucks. Yeah. All right, so this is archaeology, chapter 6, part 2, and let's get into it. So, think about 5,000 years in the future. What is something that archaeologists would find from 2020? Okay, forget the second part of the question for now. We'll actually save that for the end. What let's say 5,000 years in the future, what are some things that we would find from 2020?
Cell phones.
Cell phones is a good one. Beautiful. What else?
Were they able to find the disease, the corona?
So I did choose 2020 specifically for that reason, but whether or not they would, well, they probably wouldn't find coronavirus like itself, but what would they find related to the coronavirus? And this is very important, right? Because you're an archaeologist 5,000 years later. What would you find from here? Okay. And again, just for the sake of this exercise, I don't know, pretend like the whole world just like what could put like just died for some random disease and everything in the world is as it is right now, or it was as it was in 2020. And then we're archaeologists like 500 years in the future, completely unaware of what anything that used to be here. So what else would you find from whatever, Kingsborough or Brooklyn or whatever?
Signs,
Say again.
signs, posters.
Signs. Yeah, absolutely. Signs. Yeah, street signs. Absolutely. Yamel said COVID masks. Absolutely. Mia said COVID tests. Yes, absolutely. The Pfizer, Johnson, Moderna. Well, actually, I don't know if they would find the Pfizer, Johnson, Moderna. I think that at that point they would probably just because like the I don't know, but the vaccines, aren't they held in like these like glass tubes? I don't know if they'd be able to differentiate them that much. Injections, yes, absolutely. What else would they be able to find from 2020? So far we had a good one too. Phones is a big one they'd find. What else? What other things would they find? Don't just think about COVID. Think about everything. Like in general.
Laptop.
Yeah, laptops, good. Not just laptops, computers, right? TVs, very good. Yep. And kind of
Electric bikes.
electric bikes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. That's very specific. Yeah. Music. Would they be able to find music? I don't know if they'd be able to find music. Electric cars, absolutely.
Electric scooters.
Electric scooters, absolutely. Right. And that's why, right? What Stan said with music, okay, and this is very important. You can't really find music, right? Because we have music all over the place. But where's our music? It's usually in our phone, right? So it'd be very difficult to find music. But what you could find is like the things that are needed for music, if that makes sense. So you can kind of give me some of those examples. Ventilator, very good. Planes, mopeds, headphones, very good. What else? Anything else? Or anything that come to mind? Hospitals, yeah, absolutely. Any other features that they would find?
Like buildings and bridges that we built.
Yeah, there we go. Building bridges, very good, very good. Streets, even, absolutely. I'd probably be all messed up by that time, but yeah, those definitely find it. Good. Anything else? Anything else? Very good. Yeah, so you guys got most of it, right? So there's a lot of things we would find. So the difference between today and obviously like 1,000 years ago is that most of the stuff we do today is made, right? So like Satin had a good one. She said music, right? But you can't really find music, right? But what you could find is maybe the instrument that they use to make music, or maybe the iPhone that we listen to music to, or maybe the headphones that we listen to music with, right? These are things that you can find that will indicate that, for example, we listen to music, okay? And this is going to get a little bit spicy in the future, but basically, one of the things I want to ask you is like, what do you think an archaeologist would think about the stuff they find, right? So my favorite example is a phone. What do you think an archaeologist would think about finding this phone? What do you think that they think it's used for?
Some sort of communication device.
You think so?
I mean, it's flat. It's has speakers, has a screen.
Oh, but does it have pictures?
Maybe.
So remember, this 5,000 years in the future. And last time I checked, my iPhone lasts about 20 hours, right? So would they see the pictures? I would argue probably not, right? So again, you really have to think about what would archaeologists think about this phone if they found it 5,000 years in the future. A cutting board. They might think it's a cutting board. Interesting. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna get into it, but there's other things that people use it for that is more similar to a cutting board than not. I think it's a brick. Okay, very interesting. Yeah. Any other guesses as to what the archaeologists might think it's used for?
I think it's like a mirror or something.
Mm,
And
that's a good
everybody
one.
has one or something. So
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good one. It's a very good one. Yeah, mirror, absolutely. Right. Now, what would they think? It's a terrible device. Yeah, they might. What would they think? Or sorry, why would they? So the thing is interesting about smartphones, right, is that every one of us has one. Okay, what would they think about it? Like, what would they think it's for, or like what do you think the purpose of it is? Because everyone has it, right? So what do they think it is? Well, they might not have phones. Who knows? They might just communicate by writing letters to each other. We don't know. They probably think we need to survive. It's very good. We think we need to survive. Very good. Yeah. Also, too, little some food for thought, right? Not all of us have an iPhone, right? Some of us have Samsung, some of us have the other brands, right? So there is clearly going to be something that they're going to think about that. And more importantly, right, there's a lot of them.
Like, depending on what kind of type it is in my social class, like one might be richer than some people, they might think.
That's a good one. Yes, absolutely. They might associate it with social rank, right? Like there's a cast of like people who have iPhones are people who are of this rank, and people who have Samsung people of this rank. Very good. That's a good one. They probably think we needed to survive. Yeah, okay. Might be a social thing. Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, those are all good guesses. Okay. So Nokias will never die in the future. Nokias don't even die now. So, I think they're pretty safe about that. So the thing though is we're going to be very interesting, right? And I've had a lot of students say like, what's the difference between this and just like a paperweight? Well, a big difference is that when you crack this bad boy open, there's going to be a bunch of stuff inside, right? A bunch of like metal chips and stuff. Now, whether or not they can recognize that those chips are what they're used for, they're probably not going to be able to know that. What they will recognize, though, is that it takes a sophisticated or a lot of technology to make it this way, right? And so, Lubna made a great point, right? We use it for communication, or use it for it's a phone, right? But you really need to ask yourself, like, how will they know it's a phone? What is to say that this isn't a boombox? What's to say that this isn't even like a TV or something, right? And we have to be careful because the things that we take for granted, right? The phone, for example, when I say take for granted, I mean like understanding how it's used, right? Is not the same for everybody. And especially if we're, 5,000 years in the future and, the whole society like died and came back, right? So that's very important to consider when you're doing archaeology, because we might have a certain understanding of this thing, but that might not be what it's used for, right? So let's say, like, for example, if I see a cylinder and it has a handle on the side, what am I going to assume it is? I'm going to assume it's a freaking cup, okay, just from my own experience. That being said, who is to say that this is not just a hat, a ceremonial hat? I don't know, right? And so that's why it's important to consider your own biases when we are making these assumptions about the stuff that we find, because it's not as clean cut as we might think. This thing that we think is used to like, eat food might be used to like, I don't know, like, might be used in jewelry. We don't know, right? I'm pretty sure there will be some sort of, yes. Yeah, that's why I said, just for the sake of the exercise that, we all died and we came back and had a whole new system, right? But yeah, Yvette's very right. I'm pretty sure there will be some sort of recorded information about the phone. Absolutely. And more importantly, we'll explore this more in the next session, but everything we do is informed by everything that like has been done, right? So what does that mean? When you say pick up the phone, do you go like this? No, you go like this, right? Why is that? No one's phone looks like this anymore. Well, maybe at Kingsborough, but no one's phone looks like this anymore. It looks like this, right? It's a square. So why are we still using this? It's because our understanding of phones is based off of our previous understanding of phones. Also, the icon for phone, right? The same thing. Also, too, if you really think about it, we don't actually use the most of us, I'd say, use our phones the least as phones. Does that make sense? So we usually use it for like, you know, TikTok or whatever. I use it for like deals and shopping and stuff. But anyway, the main point is that, you know, we still use this motion. We still have an understanding of the phone based on our previous understandings. So if, for example, your phone looks like this, then you're never going to understand this hand motion. Okay. Pretty painful and heavy hat. Yes. This hand, absolutely. But who knows? It could be light. I mean, if you get a light cup put in your head, it's not that different. It might not stay on very well, but yeah, who knows? But anyways, so we're gonna talk about the second question though. What conclusion would they would they make about what they found later on? And we'll talk about how that's relates to archaeology. Great. So we're going right into it. Interpreting subsistence strategies. Subsistence strategies are basically different ways that varying societies meet basic survival needs, right? So food, shelter, water. Yeah, those are like the main things, right? Archaeologists divide societies into foragers and food producers, right? Foragers are food collectors who gather fish or hunt, and food producers depend on domesticated plants or animals both. So the way I think about it is foragers have to go out for their food. They cannot make their own food. Food producers make their own food. Okay, very straightforward. Now, food producers include pastoralists who herd animals and also farmers who practice intensive extensive agriculture, right? So don't just think of it as farming. It's also like herding. Herding is also a big part of food producing. Okay, now this on the bottom. The reason why I had this little question on the bottom is because some people got confused like early on while teaching this, but let's say we go to some fancy restaurant and they're like, yo, we just hunted this deer and you're going to eat this deer, right? That food is foraged, okay? But you, as a person, right, eating that food, does that make you a forager? No. Or even let's say you're the one that hunted the boar and you ate the boar yourself today, right? Like, you know, like whatever, next week you went to upstate. I don't even know if they go hunting in upstate, but upstate feels like they go hunting. Doesn't matter. Anyways, right? You killed this boar, you ate it, right? Are you a forager then? Overall? No, right? Because for you to be a forager, it means that 51% of your diet needs to be foraged, right? And if you're a food producer, that means 51% or more of your diet needs to be produced, right? And most of our food that we eat today, at least us, I'm assuming in this classroom, is food produced, right? We're not hunting for anything, okay? Now, we might have the occasional, you know, apple or blueberry that is foraged, but it doesn't mean that we are foragers. Does that make sense? It just the categories, how you define them, okay? Wouldn't hunting for a boar be foraging and producing? So if you're hunting a wild boar, that would be foraging, correct? Okay, but again, because most of our diet is obviously produced, we would still be considered food producers. Everyone clear on that? Is there any confusion about that? Because there always will be a mix, and especially in our ancestors, right? With our ancestors, it's you know, I don't know about you, but I don't know how to farm, right? So when I first start learning how to farm, it's no surprise that a lot of stuff that I'm going to be doing is not going to work really well. I might get some good potatoes, but everything else might still come from outside, right? That community would still be considered a forager because even though they are, you know, like growing potatoes in this example, they still have to go outside for most of their food. Okay. and vice versa, right? In today's society, I'm sure there's a lot of people that like to hunt for their own food, right? But if most of their food is still produced here, like produced, or sorry, it's still produced in society, right? Like whatever you're buying. Let's say you hunt all your protein, right? But your carbs or like you know your rice or whatever you're eating and your vegetables are always going to be from the store, then you are still a food producer because most of your diet is produced. Does that make sense? Is there any confusion about that? Cool, 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 cool. All right. Very good. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It gets a little mixed up sometimes, okay, and that's normal. So, subsistence strategies. Food collectors, there are small scale foragers and complex foragers. Food collectors is pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it sounds like. Small scale foragers, like, hey, there's a blueberry. Let's pick it, right? And hey, there's a, you know, I don't know, like deer. Let's kill it, right? It's small scale. It's very much like, you know, it's just when you see it, it happens. Complex foragers, however, they forage, meaning they go out for the food. But the difference here is that they are a little more intentional about what they're doing, right? Sometimes they won't always go for this one. They might be like, oh, hey, like, you know, let's not kill this deer because this deer might have a baby soon. Let's kill the other deer so that we have more food for the future. Or like, oh, hey, like we already have a lot of berries at home or in our group. So let's like not get these berries right now. I don't think they're sweet and we don't need them, right? Complex forages is basically you're still foraging, but you're just, you know, more intelligent about it. Okay. Pretty wouldn't hunting for purview. Yeah. What's your favorite thing to farm? I have no idea. I don't know how to farm. But if you guys are interested, actually Kingsborough has a farm and it's really good. So if you guys are interested, please make sure to check that out. All right, food producers. Yeah, there's a farm in between the T buildings. They're actually a really really well. It's really great, and I think they pass out vegetables every Wednesday. Oh no, I do not know how to farm. Sorry, no, I'm a city boy. I really don't know how to farm. I don't know anything. If you guys are interested in the farm though, just shoot me a message and or shoot me an email or whatever. And I'll shoot you the information. They have like a bunch of classes that you can take, you know, if you want to, and they have you can volunteer on the farm if you'd like, and they also pass out like vegetables and stuff. It's pretty cool. All right. Anyways, food producers, right? Food producers include herders. You know, we all know that those are people who herd animals, and finally farmers. Farmers have extensive and intensive agriculture. The difference here is that extensive agriculture means that you are feeding multiple people or you're feeding a person. It's like, you know, it's broad, right? The reason why this exists here is because if I put an avocado seed in water and have it sprout, am I then a farmer? Absolutely not, right? Extensive is referring to that, meaning that you can actually feed people or feed yourself with the amount of food that you're producing. Okay. Intensive agriculture. Intensive is the opposite, or not the opposite, but the other side of that. Intensive is having the knowledge to really understand how to plant things correctly, what season to do things, how much to water, how much sun it needs, whatever. It's having the education, the depth of knowledge you need to farm, right? And finally, this is our current stage, mechanized industrial agriculture. Even though most of the pictures and stuff that we see is like, you know, normal or into extensive intensive agriculture, like of farmers doing stuff, most of our food comes from mechanized industrial agriculture, meaning that things are you know, harvested, planted, killed, whatever, at a very efficient rate, right? So like I think, you know, if we were to look at like freaking berries or something, like the amount that we produce per year is like crazy. Or like, you know, the amount of chickens that we can kill in an hour for you know, for Purdue Farms or whatever. That's the industrial agriculture, right? It's like getting it done at a very efficient rate. Okay. All right. So, social organization. Sometimes societies are categorized in the bands, tribes, chiefs, and states. These represent points on a continuum. Before we move forward, though, I need you to be careful because, especially the word tribes and the word state, they mean something very different in day-to-day language versus what they're going to mean in this lecture or in anthropology. Okay, so just like separate, pretend like you don't know what tribe or state means. Okay, so separate the two. Yeah. So the first society is a band society. This is a common social organization among foragers, consists usually of no more than 50 people. They provide roughly equal access to material social valuables and essentially are egalitarian. They divide labor on the basis of age and sex. Okay, so imagine, well, this class is a little bit smaller than my in-person classes, but let's say we're like 30 people, right? 30 people is a good amount of time for the band society. And we are equal, right? So let's say, what does that mean? Let's say I don't know. Let's say Amanda goes out and like catches 50 fish. We all have one fish per person. Doesn't matter if you helped. Doesn't matter if you didn't do anything. Doesn't matter if you were the actual one that fished it. We're gonna have one fish per person, right? We divide our resources equally. Okay. Now, at this point, we divide the labor for our group off of age and sex. Meaning, if you're a male or female, you're going to do certain things, or if you're a certain age, you're going to do certain things. Okay. Now, moving on, these are tribal societies. Now, again, I need you to separate your understanding of the word tribe, specifically Native American tribe, from this definition. This is a very clear definition of the size of a society. It has nothing to do with Native American tribes or like some Native American tribes are tribal or like are like tribes in the anthropological definition, but not all of them. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Anyways, tribal societies. We are now more than 50 people. Let's say we're 100 people. We are composed of farmers or herders, meaning that we have some level of food producing now as a tribe. Okay. We provide roughly equal access to material such as valuables. So same thing. If we have 100 people and we catch 100 fish, everyone is getting one fish. It does not matter if you helped or didn't help, you are still getting one fish. They divide labor on the basis of sodalities that group people based on age, sex, economic role, or personal interest. This is very important. This means that the work on our, in our group is not now just decided on age and sex. It's also based off of other things, such as your interest in the thing. So let's say, Lubna loves fishing. And I'm like, all right, Lubna, go ahead and fish. You don't need to go hunt anymore. We'll take care of the hunting, right? Now things are starting to change. This is going to be a very big factor later on, but talk about later. Now, this is very interesting as well. Tribal societies can have a leader with greater prestige, but not usually greater power or wealth. What does that mean? That basically means they have a leader that has like clout or respect, right? But they do not have greater power, right? So let's say I'm like, yo, like I wanna, let's say I want to go hunt, but it's raining outside. I talk to our leader, right? And then the leader, is like, hey, don't go hunting. I don't think it's a good idea to go hunting tonight because it's raining. And whatever, you're gonna get sick. And I'm like, okay, I respect what you have to say because you're the leader, but you also have but I'm going to go hunt anyway because I want to, right? It's not like, hey, you can't do this. It's more like, hey, I'm gonna offer my wisdom, and if you take it, great, and if you don't, that's fine too. Okay, so this is tribal societies. Chieftain societies, okay, consist usually of more people than seen in a tribe, provide roughly unequal access to material such as valuables. So now let's say we're at 200 people. We're 200 people, and now people are starting to get unequal access to material or social valuables. So now we have 200 people, and there's 200 fish. Not everyone gets a fish. It's going to be divided differently. We have a leader or chief who, along with his or her relatives, have privileged access to power, wealth, and prestige. They show a greater level of craft production and may develop into a state. Okay, so this is important. So now when you have a leader, they have the power to do stuff now, right? Now, if I were like, hey, I'm going to go out and hunt, and then, the leader's like, no, you're not going to go out and hunt, That's it. It's over. There's no argument. There's no like back and forth. They have the power to tell me no, right? So this thing is very interesting though, right? Because provide roughly unequal access. What that means is, hey, Lubna caught the fish. Lubna caught like 200 fish, and there's 200 people, right? You know what? The leader of our group, Celia, let's say, was gonna get 20 fish because they're the leader of our group. Lumna's gonna get 10 fish because Lumna's the one that caught all the fish. But guess what? Professor Fong, he didn't do anything for the fish. He's gonna get half a fish. F him, right? There's now different distributions of resources in the society. Okay, so that's very important because things here are not being given out exactly. They are being kind of like given out depending on what that person is doing or not doing in the group. Okay, so yeah, Professor Fong, yeah. So this next one may show a greater degree of craft production. Okay, so a greater degree of craft production is pretty straightforward. Basically, it means that they're like whatever that they're making is better, right? So it could be like a sharper knife, could be a rounder bowl, could be, I don't know, like more sophisticated art, whatever, right? It's just a little bit better, right? Now, this last point is very interesting. May develop into states. Okay, so and I think this is the quiz question, right? Why is it that chieftain societies can develop into states, the next level, but why is it so hard for bands and tribes to turn into chiefdoms? Anyone take a stab at it? Want to take a guess? Why is it so hard? Or sorry, why is it easier for chieftain society to turn into states than it is for bands to turn into tribes or tribes to turn into chiefdoms? Like, why do you think? Just off the top of your head, why do you think it's the difference? It's not. It's actually a surprisingly easy answer. Maybe they lack a leader structure. Yeah, sure. That could be part of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? Anyone else have a little guess? No guesses. No guesses. Okay. Yeah, pretty much it. But really, really what it comes down to in the band and tribe societies is that it's really easy to die in these situations. I know this is a very weird way of saying it, but it's very easy to die. How they're gonna die is very it's different all across the board, obviously, but it's very easy to die. Let me explain. So band societies and tribes, especially band societies, you're literally running around with 50 people trying to survive all the time. God forbid it gets a little colder than you're used to. God forbid it rains and someone gets sick and the whole freaking, bunch of you, die. God forbid you eat something that might not be so good and then you get sick and then, next thing you know, you can't hunt or do anything and then you're dead, right? Tribe societies, even though it's better, right? They started to have some level of food production, right? It's still pretty tough because first of all, the group is not that big, right? And you're not really, well, I guess it doesn't really say it here, but at this point, are you really familiar with your surroundings enough to stay still? Are you going to, eat something, get sick? What if your main person that's farming, all the sheep, what if that person what if that person gets sick or gets, hit by something? I don't know, right? Your society is going to fall apart very quickly, not because you're not smart or you're smarter. It's just there's a lot of elements there that are going to prevent you from moving on. Okay, and essentially the reason why is because in chieftain societies, these people have already gone through what these two groups have already gone through, right? They have found a way to deal with their environment to become as big as they are in a chiefdom, right? So it's like 200 people, let's say. Like they've already gone through the challenges of being 50 persons or being 100 persons. Now they're 200 persons, and so they've kind of been through it already. They have a more stable lifestyle, if you will, that again adjusts to how their environment is, right? So again, the answer is that it's really easy to die between band, tribe, and then to chiefdom societies, right? At chiefdom societies, you've achieved a pretty good level of whatever you want to call it, like understanding of stability, whatever, right? And so that's why it is more likely for chiefdoms to turn into states than it is for those other ones to turn into each other. Okay. All right. Now, last one, states. Obviously, states in our common, day-to-day usage of the word means a state within a country, specifically America. But you have to understand in states, as we're talking about in anthropology, what it really is referring to is more of the status of a group. Okay, please keep that in mind. So, states consist of a stratified society with unequal access to material social valuables. They have a defined territory and a centralized government. They are led by an elite with the power to tax and a monopoly using force. They may develop into empires by conquering other states. So this is pretty cool, right? So pretty straightforward. Stratified society, what that means is basically it's different categories of people that are given different access to resources, right? So the easiest example, that's kind of a hard way to explain, but the easiest example is like, during the like medieval times, right? There's the king and queen, there's a nobleman, there's the knights, there's the merchants, there's the peasants, right? They all have different access to resources depending on what category they are in, right? Sorry, could you repeat what you said? What shows as a group? Oh, sorry. So what I was saying was that the word states, even though obviously in our day-to-day conversation, we use the word states like as a state of the United States of America, as a state like California or New York or whatever. In archaeology, what states is referring to is a political status. Or it's a status, status of a group. That's it. Okay, so what I'm basically telling you is don't use your previous understanding of states to understand this word. It's like a different word. Yeah. Okay, so is everyone clear on stratified society? What that means? It basically just means like different categories of people in a society. Okay, so basically when you have those categories, you are considered a state, right? When you have a defined territory and a centralized government, those are pretty straightforward. Like you have a border basically, and you have a centralized government, then you're a state. Are you led by an elite with the power to tax and monopoly using force? This is very important. Can I raise taxes on Joe Biden? No. Can Joe Biden raise taxes on me? Yes. Okay. That is the power to tax. A monopoly on using force. Can I don't know, could I call the Marines to attack the White House? No. But can the White House call the Marines to attack my house? Well, probably not, but still, like it's closer than they have the force, right? They can call local police, they can call whoever to take care of me in that way, right? That means that they have the control of using force, of using whatever you want to call it, force, right? So it's the same thing with older societies, right? Obviously, you are not going to increase taxes on the king. The king is going to increase taxes on you, right? You are not going to, have the knights attack the king. The king is going to have the knights attack you, right? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about states. May develop into empires by conquering other states. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, so this is a state, right? Different categories of people, and importantly, different categories that have different access to resources, right? They have a border, they have a centralized government, and they are led by an elite person or group of people with the power to tax and a monopoly on using force, right? Meaning they can increase or decrease taxes on you, and they can use violence on you while you can't use it on them, basically. Okay. Cool. Everyone clear on these 4 categories? Okay. It's pretty straightforward, but yeah, there's just some important details in here that I just want to clear up. Cool. All right, next, digital heritage. Digital heritage refers to digital information about the past available on the internet. Digital information includes digitized documents, digital photos, artifact images, video and sound recordings, 3D artifact and sound and site reconstruction. So look, digital heritage is just a fancy way of saying that like the internet and technology has really helped archaeology as a whole. Because imagine in the past, right? Like how are you supposed to share documents? You're gonna send each other photographs? It's gonna take freaking forever. Sorry. But you know, it's gonna take forever, right? When you're sharing images, right? Because what's it called? The cameras are so much better now, right? It's much easier. And specifically, right, when we're talking about 3D artifacts, 3D constructions, actually, that was the next slide, sorry. It's this one, right? The potential connecting data, spatial coordinates, fleshing out site and landscape, rendering, simulated past, and photographic detail on the scale of world building as complete a model of the past as possible with digital heritage. So what this is basically saying is like specifically in the case of building a like a model of how people used to live, right? So the problem with that is that imagine, right? So today is very easy. Today, you know, if you guys ever played Sims or you know, freaking, you know, like Minecraft or anything, right? You can make it your own landscape. And then, you know, you do research and you're like, oh, hey, actually, these bowls weren't here. That's cool. Let me just take them out, right? It doesn't take that long. Now, imagine you having to do that with a physical model where you have to like build everything. Do you know how much hassle it's going to be to take out the bowls and to change it? And more importantly, for other people to see it. So as you can tell with technology, it's made life a lot easier in terms of sharing information for archaeology. Okay. Yvette said, what about ancestry DNA companies? So even though this says digital heritage, what it really is what it's really saying is just technological advances for archaeology. So what you're talking about is more like biological heritage. So it's not super related. But yeah, it's not super related for this particular one. It's not super related. But when we go into bioanthro, that might be something to touch on. Okay, very nice. Now, ethics. Why do we have a slide here called ethics? Archaeologists recognize now that the past can have meaning to people living today. Descendant communities help deepen and understand the past. Conflicts had developed over ownership of the past, especially over excavation of Native American burials. Now, basically what happened was archaeologists really screwed over a lot of Native American tribes, okay? And what ended up happening was, you know, they were like, yo, like, can we dig up your great aunt? Because we want to, I don't know, like analyze your DNA or whatever. And then the Native American tribe was like, nah, don't do it. And the archaeologist was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it anyway. So that's basically what it came down to, was that they were just basically treating the Native American people as like research subject and not treating them as like people. And at that point, because of a lot of reasons, but basically there's no protection for Native American people. They had to create NAGPRA, right? Native American Graves Protection Repatriation Act. Congress passed NAGPRA in 1990 to protect Native American graves on federal or tribal land. Federal agencies or federally funded museums must also inventory Native American human remains and cultural objects collected in past years. Items may be repatriated or returned to Native American groups. So basically, archaeologists really screwed a lot of Native American people. So aside from not respecting basicking their wishes when you're talking about their freaking great grandmother, right? They also did things like not give them credit for, for work or discoveries that they made through the assistance of the Native American tribes themselves, right? So they created this thing. Now, federal agencies or federally funded museums, which is all of them, must also inventory Native American human remains, right, and cultural objects collected in the past. Why is that important? Why is inventorying the stuff important? It's because it holds people accountable, right? If you're required by the federal government to have, whoever gave you this Native American artifact, their contact information or whatever, it holds you accountable. You cannot be like, oh, hey, yeah, John Doe gave me this. Oh, wait, I called his number, sorry, I can't reach him. That is not going to fly anymore, right? They get punished for that, okay? And more importantly, now items may repatriate or return to Native American groups, okay? So what that means is basically like if there's a, I don't know, like a Muskogee tribe, someone from the Muskogee tribe, they're at the Natural History Museum and they see, I don't know, a basket or a knife or whatever in one of the displays, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that from our tribe? That's weird." They let the leader in their tribe know, and the leader hits up Natural History Museum like, "Yo, like this is our knife. I want it back." That's it, right? And so now they have the right to take their stuff back. Okay, so again, archaeologists. It was not all freaking rainbows and stuff. There was actually a lot of bad stuff that happened in the past. Okay, destruction of the past. Whose past is it? I don't really love this example, but basically these are this is like the opposite of the preservation, right? Like, how can our things get destroyed? How can the archaeological record get destroyed? Extremists destroy monuments as the Taliban did to the Bamiyan Buddhas in Afghanistan. So I don't like that example because it's kind of like telling people what to do with their stuff. Do I think it sucks that they blew out the Bamiyan Buddhas? Absolutely. But I also think it's like it's their stuff. So it's like, who are we to say what to do with their stuff? Doesn't matter. The reason why this example is in there though was because the Bamiyan Buddhas were a very important archaeological feature. The Bamiyan Buddhas are Buddhas that were built in Afghanistan when there was a large Buddhist population there. Other than the Buddhas, there is very little evidence or very little left over from the Buddhist population that was in Afghanistan, right? But again, I don't really love this example, but it happens sometimes, right? So sometimes people will, destroy the archaeological record to advance their own interests, which sometimes could be political, it could be economic, it could be whatever, really. But that happens sometimes. Okay. Land development also destroys the sites through construction and mechanized agriculture. We kind of went over this already. If there's going to be a Walmart being built over, this massive archaeological site, so sorry, or sorry, not sorry, the archaeological site is probably never going to be discovered. And mechanized agriculture. This is something that probably people don't really think about a lot. But even if you've seen like those, the like stereotypical tractors and stuff, you're telling me that like, whatever's left over from 1,000 years ago is going to survive that digging through the ground? No, it's not going to. So mechanized agriculture is also a big factor as to, what's it called? The archaeological record getting destroyed. Okay. And again, we already talked about this, looting in the market for stolen antiquities, right? I am an archaeologist. I just found a bunch of cool stuff in this tomb. I hire KBCC security to protect it, and then freaking, I don't know, Jeff Bezos hires like this ex-CIA agent to come steal it. It's going to get stolen, and I have no more thing to study anymore, right? So it's pretty straightforward, okay? Gender. Oh, yes, gender archaeology. Okay, so archaeology now. So gender archaeology recognize that traditional archaeologists often ignore the presence of women in the past. Collaborative archaeology. Jeff Bezos sucks. Yeah, he's not a great guy. This dude looks like a superhero villain for sure. That being said, though, I still use Amazon, so that sucks even more. But gender archaeology recognizes that traditional archaeologists often ignore the presence of women in the past. Collaborative archaeology projects seek to study the past by working with distant communities. Archaeology tools to engage in it. Okay, great, whatever. So let me get to the more important stuff. So feminist archaeology rejected biological determinism of sex roles, arguing that cultural and historical factors were responsible for how a society allocated tasks and that this allocation could change over time. The goal was to develop a view of the past that replaces the focus on remains with a focus on people as social agents. Okay, so look, let me give you this example and I'll explain. Okay, so this is feminist archaeology. Jiro showed how traditional archaeological discussion of stone tool technologies focused on highly formalized, elaborate retouched, standardized core tools. They're focused together with the assumption that such tools were made by men to hunt with, turns men and their activities into the driving force of cultural evolution. It simultaneously downplays or ignores the far more numerous flake tools that were probably made and used by women in such tasks as processing food or working wood and leather, exposing as false the supposition that women are not strong or smart enough to produce them. So basically what they're saying here is that Jiro showed that basically all these people from the past really focused on these core tools, right? And these core tools were used by men to hunt. And because they focused so much on them, they basically completely ignored or downplayed the other tools that women were making and using to advance, you know, our culture or advance our societies, right? Even though they were doing them, they were making flake tools and they were contributing a lot to the you know, to the whatever, the community, the group. And but they're mostly ignored because people are so focused on these core tools, right? And so the big thing I wanted to touch on for feminist archaeology is that it's not changing facts, right? Remember, what's the fact? The facts are we found this freaking, you know, this freaking dagger, or the facts are we found these freaking core tools and these flake tools, right? It's more of changing the interpretation of the facts, okay? And why is that important? Or why does that need to happen? Well, one, a very obvious thing, people's perspectives are based off of the things they've been through, right? So if you're asking someone from 50 years ago to do an analysis of, you know, the woman's role in this community, they're going to have a different perspective than people today. And so it's always important to kind of keep that rolling. But number two, let me ask you a question. Are standards for women and men today the same as they were 50 years ago? Absolutely not. So what makes you assume that you understand the roles of women and men 500 years ago? What makes you assume that you understand the roles of women and men 1,000 years ago in a different place? So that is why feminist archaeology exists, right? It's not necessarily to change the facts, because the facts always remain the same. Which the stuff that you find is not going to change, right? But your interpretation of what those things are might change. Okay. And also too, you know, just to be completely freaking honest, like there's a lot of you know, sexist people that were around when a lot of the first archaeological records for these things came out. So it's no surprise that if they were sexist, then their interpretation is also going to be sexist. So it's important to kind of look over those things again. All right. All right. Full circle. So what is something that archaeologists would find out from 2020? What conclusion they would make about what they found? So I brought up the thing with the phone, right? The thing with COVID. And yes, you guys all had great examples, right? Now, that is challenging within itself, but I'm going to add another layer. How will they know how it affected our day-to-day lives? How will they know that how it affected the stock market? How will they know how it affected us staying home from work? How will they know how it affected schools, right? Even though, and literally just looking at the COVID tests, just look at the phones, look at all these things that we would find 5,000 years in the future, it's already complicated enough. But would they really understand how it affected our day-to-day lives? I don't think so. That is the challenge of archaeology, right? It's not just, again, what is this phone used for? What is this COVID test? Oh, it's a COVID test. It's not a pregnancy test, whatever, right? It's not just discovering those minute things of what they do and what they are, but it's more importantly understanding how did it affect our day-to-day lives? How did it affect our life in general? Because from 2020 to like 2021, it was a clear difference of living than we usually would. Would the archaeologists 5,000 years in the future be able to see that? It'd be very difficult. Very, very difficult. And that is a very, very important moment in our history, as in New York or in the world. Okay. So that is the challenge of archaeology. It's not necessarily just figuring out what stuff is, but it's also understanding what the lifestyle was back then. Okay. Would research papers, news articles help them understand like how nerds and doctors were overworked and almost abused to the point? Yes. It would absolutely help them, but and that's why I gave the situation like I did, right? So like we all died, and then 5,000 years later, you know, new people came through. That's why I gave this that situation, because obviously through text and, you know, like writing and stuff like that, we can understand a lot about a lot of other societies. Yeah, I think it depends how we got to 5 minutes from now. If there's just a through, really anyone just died and came back, they might not be able to tell it's a phone if we manage to live. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's why I had to give the situation, because, you know, we know what people did 500 years ago because, you know, there's writing and there's all kinds of stuff. But again, if again we all died and then we came back like 5,000 years later, right? Like we re-evolved or whatever, and they found like ruins of Kingsborough, right? Would they be able to find out? Probably not, because again, we're assuming, right? We're assuming there could have been like a million languages back then. But we can't find, you know, whatever, like their language because they wrote all their language on chicken bone or something like that. So regardless, though, the main point again is that it's very difficult to understand what people were doing, right? Very, very difficult to understand what people were doing. We might be able to understand like what they used, cup and a phone, right? But it'd be very difficult to know what they were doing day to day. Okay. Very nice. Thank you everybody for your participation. That is it. Let me see. Is there anything to do? Oh, actually, other than the quiz, there's nothing to do. So real quickly, if I get everyone's attention, next week, next Friday, okay? Next Friday, yeah. Next Friday is when reflection 2 is going to be due. Okay, so basically, like what is it? It's not a week, it's like 15 days from, oh no, it's like 10, whatever. It's a while from now. Okay, it's like 14 days or 14 days or 2 weeks, 14. It's like 12 days from now. That's when the reflection 2 is gonna be due. So right now, only thing that's due is quiz 3. Okay. If there is any other assignment that was put in there on accident by the freaking person that was like organizing Brightspace, so don't even worry about that. Yeah, quiz 2. Sorry, yeah, quiz 2. Quiz 2 is due at the, at 1 p.m. or whatever today. But that's it. Okay. Yeah, that's basically it for this week. I will post the chapter, basically the chapter 7 readings as well as the chapter 7 PowerPoints today. So you guys will have that for next week when we meet for class. Okay. We do not see the grade until after you grade it. Huh. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for letting me know. Correct. Quiz 2 is only 2 questions. Yes. Yes. All right, guys. That's pretty much it. Are there any questions before we end class? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions?
No question.
No questions? All right. Yeah, quiz 2 is only 2 questions. And I'm going to get that thing sorted out, but I believe I found out how to show you the grades. I just haven't been able to do it yet. Actually, let me give me a minute right now. Let me try to do it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If I have called your name, then you are good to go.